Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Wayne D. What's up,
Hey,
Wayne?
Bill, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you want to tell the people what you were a part of before we get started?
Yeah, I was in the Death Marauders motorcycle club in Northern Illinois. I joined in 79, the winter of 79. It's funny because everybody that kind of knew me at that time, there were a lot of clubs in the area, but I would always tell people that I were close. I said, if I'm joining a club, I'm joining the Hells Angels. That's what I'm doing. And so I wasn't interested in any of this other stuff. And I had a friend of mine and came to a bar that I hung out with, brought a couple guys with him. And, they were older guys. They had a reputation. And we said, hey, we're starting this motorcycle club. And I said, yeah, I don't know if I'm into it. And my buddy kind of nudges me. It's like, shut up and listen. And so they said, why don't you just, come along with us and, get to know you and see what happens. So this was like on a Tuesday or something. And so Friday, we meet at this bar up in, I think it was Richmond, Illinois. And so we're just kind of hanging out in there. And we go across the street and we go up some stairs to an apartment. It's the president's house. Okay. So I don't know. At this point, I think we're just going up to meet this guy and that's it. So we get in there and all of a sudden, he's the guy who's the president and I guess he started the club. He came up with the name. He's telling the two guys that I'm with or the three guys that I'm with, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And one guy says, no, we're not. And you're not president. I am. And you can either step down or leave. And so we're in this guy's apartment, So, he gets kind of pissed. And I'm kind of standing there going, what the, because I'm not privy to any of this. Nobody said anything. And one guy kind of looks at me and goes, what are you going to do? Or something like that. Or what do you want to do? And I go, hey, I'm just kind of here, I'm with you guys, That was, we left there. The guy pissed. We took all of the stuff, which was like club patches and stuff like that.
And this was the guy who created the club?
He's the guy who started the club.
So you guys took all the patches and all his paraphernalia?
All this stuff. And I don't really remember because it was in like cardboard boxes, but I'm assuming it was patches and stuff. In fact, I know there was patches and colors and stuff in there. So we take the stuff and then that night they said, you want to prospect? And I said, okay, and I just kind of went with it, it just felt right. And, I just went with it. So I started hanging out with them, going to parties. I knew all the biker bars, knew a lot of guys in the scene, from different clubs.
Yeah, but this is the Outlaws territory, right?
Yeah, this is the Outlaws territory. So one of the guys that was there that night with us was a heavy hitter with another club, with the Night Sinners. He'd been a Night Sinner and left for whatever reasons. Another guy was a member of another club. I want to say the Sojourners, and they're still existing out there. And then the other guy, there was another guy that had some connections somewhere. I don't know where he was from, but they were very well respected in the motorcycle community. I mean, I remember we had the Outlaws come to our clubhouse. We had a couple different clubhouses, but we had one in, I think it was called Fish Lake Beach. One year we had a corn roast. Both the Outlaws and the Hell's Henchmen showed up at like the same time, or, like maybe 10 minutes apart or something. And the feds are all out there. We had this kind of dirt driveway there. You know, they came in and everybody was cool with each other. They kind of did patting each other down kind of thing. You know, it's like, you know the
check if you got a gun.
Congratulatory, you know, yeah, okay, I accept you thing, whatever. And but we had a lot of guys. You know, I can remember a couple outlaws that would stop by from now and then. A guy named State Line, and he was a cool guy. I went to the Outlaws Clubhouse 2 or 3 times, maybe for parties, and it was all good. The one thing that, and I learned this real fast, was there was lots of mud checking going on. You were constantly.
What's mud checking for the people out there that don't know?
So mud checking is, it's kind of testing a guy's salt, you know, kind of like, you know, extremely like push a guy, you know, what are you going to do about it? You know, it's a, you know, putting a guy in a situation that, you know, he's going to have to make a decision. And, you know, you want him to be kind of a warrior dude, you know, you don't want some punk that's just going to kind of fall to the side and go, again, don't hurt me. But it's always testing a guy, you know. Guy says, you know, oh, you know what? I can deadlift, you know, 450 pounds. Oh, okay. I got a weight set here. Let's see it, you know, and really check a guy, you know.
Yeah.
But it would be more extreme, you know, use your imagination. It would be more extreme than that for certain things. But my president and others schooled me real quick on, you just keep your mouth shut. You know, anybody asks you anything, you know, so I just assumed that any time anybody was asking me anything, they wanted some sort of information. If it was another club, you know, another patch holder. But I got to tell you, I had a great time. You know, my alcoholism was on fire, but those were some fun years, you know. You know, I stayed in the club, you know, I think like 88, 89, I officially said, you know what, I'm not coming back. One of the guys kept, you know, he's like, why don't you come on back? You know, well, I'd gotten sober in 83. So trying to manage club life and going to 12-step recovery meetings, you know,
You
it was
did it
like,
for a while, right? You did it for a while.
Yeah, I did it for a few years, but I wasn't hanging out with, like, I wasn't going to the crazy parties, you know. I'd go on rides and stuff like that. But I kind of avoided, you know, going to, you know, where everybody's just getting loaded all the time, which everybody was getting loaded all the time, you know. It was just, that was the times, you know. But I can remember some, you know, some events happening, you know. One was that, you know, that first night, you know, I was just like, and I think I said later to Bit, the guy that did all the talking, I said, did you know that you were going to do all that, you know, when we walked? He goes, oh, yeah. I said,
and take all that property back.
Yeah. And I said, well, how come? He said, how come? I said, how come you didn't say anything? He goes, well, I didn't know you. He said, he said, Moondog said, this guy's a cool guy. Let's see if we can get him to join, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of how it was. But so there's another club, and I don't know if you got to look at them, but they were called the Night Centers, and they were out of North Chicago, Illinois. The guy that was president of that club was a guy named George Sonny Ford. And Sonny, so we did a lot of events with them. You know, we went on runs with them, you know, where we went camping. So, you know, there's 16 of us and maybe 16 of them, or and a few other people. So, you know, you got almost 40 strong rolling along.
Yeah.
But I think I told you that before, but they had a clubhouse that was at the end of this dead-end street, and that's where he lived. He lived in this block. It was made out of cinder block house. Had I think like a 12-foot stockade fence with a guard tower up at the entrance, so they could post a guy up there to watch if anybody was coming down the street, like enemies. And I remember going there the first time and a guy telling me, don't drink anything they give you. If you get anything, if somebody hands you something with a paper cup, it's going to be dosed with acid. So just be forewarned, And first back in those days, I was like, yeah, let's get it.
Yeah. So there's another club called the Sinners.
Yeah, maybe it's just, so I think Pee Wee talked about a club up in Milwaukee called the Sinners.
Yeah.
These guys were the Night Sinners. And they've been around a long time. And then ultimately, what happened with him is he locked himself, his girlfriend, or his wife, girlfriend, and then I think a mistress or something, handcuffed them or chained them to the bed, and then blew the house up. And when that happened, we didn't know what had happened, but
he blew the whole house up with his whole family in it.
They said flame shot 60 feet in the air. It wasn't. It was him and these two chicks. He didn't have any kids or anything like that. But when it happened, we thought it was going to be like some sort of war. We thought, they went after them. And so because we were tight with them, we're thinking, is this going to blow back maybe on us? And then, by the end of the day, we had known, through news reports what had happened. And the funeral procession was unbelievable. Channel 7 News was there. And, it seemed like there was thousands of bikers there. I don't know how many were there, but there was a lot of people.
So did he get like a biker funeral?
So they did. I can't remember exactly. We went to it was really cold out. We went to the funeral, what do you call it, cemetery. And we were kind of standing we'd been up to where they were burying them. But the club did like a mock Viking funeral. They had a big burn pit in the back and built like a big kind of, I don't know, structure type thing. But that was kind of in commemoration of Sonny, And then after that, the club just, I think, kind of fell apart, and, this was kind of when I was sort of exiting, but, and that club had been strong for a lot of years. I remember, there were everybody, Outlaws, everybody at his funeral. But another thing that happened with them is we were on a run down in somewhere southern Illinois, I think. So it was the two clubs. We went down, we rented this campsite, and somewhere in the night, me and a couple guy, maybe another one of them, I know at least one other Marauder, maybe two, and then one or two Night Sinners. We're playing that drinking game, toast to the Cardinal Puff or whatever it is, and you got a drink shot. So, we're just wasted. And, maybe I don't know if we gave these guys a hard time, or maybe they thought we disrespected them or something. I don't even, I couldn't remember the next day because I was like a blackout drunk back then. But so the next day, Sunday, and we're leaving, right? So we're all just left the campground, hungover, cruising along. We go up over this hill, right? And there's a freaking roadblock, up like at the top. And as we go up, and, our president and Sonny Ford were up in front. I'm like somewhere in the middle, and and then I look back, and there's cars blocking the road behind us, right? And these cats get out of their car, and I see invaders Northwest Invaders or something. I didn't know who they were. But they got like, I look at this one guy and it looks like he's got a mini 14, and like shotguns. And this guy comes up, and of course, by now, you ever had that, where you've been out drinking all night and then, the next day you wake up and then you run into somebody and it's, hey, you remember last night? Well, as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, what could this possibly be about? Something in the back of my head or, down in my heart told me, I wonder if this is about something that happened last night, And then I kind of like, I knew it had to do with this thing. And I looked back at two of the other guys that had been there and they wouldn't even look at me. They were like looking at the ground, because our president and the Night Center's president had no idea that this had happened. This was like 3 a.m, people are passed out, they're sleeping, we're up partying. And this dude that gets out of the car, he walks up to our president and he's doing this, he walked up to Sonny and Bit and Sonny. Yeah, they both approached him, but Sonny was kind of in front a little bit. But this guy went to Sonny and he was like, probably MFing him, What you guys doing? He's I remember hearing disrespectful, and oh my God, this is so bad. This was just so bad, man. I'm thinking, wow, what is going to happen? So I didn't say anything. Long story short, after about a 15-minute conversation, that maybe wasn't even that long. It was probably 10 minutes because they were holding up the road. They left. Basically, they got in the cars and left. And I remember Sonny and Bit looking back over the pack, and they were pissed, man. I mean, they were pissed. So we ride back. Nobody says anything. I, kind of approached the president. So, what was that about? And he said, we're going to have a meeting on it. And we're not talking about it right now. That was it. And I thought, oh, gee, man.
So you still don't know what they're talking about, or are you kind of
No, I don't know. They're not. They didn't tell us, So then we had a meeting. We had church that Friday night. I don't think we had to go in before that. I think it was just, we just went to church and then it was brought up. And he said, I don't know what went on back there last weekend, but there's a few of you in here that do. And he goes, you're getting a pass. He goes, we're not talking about this. This is dead. And he says, and the Night Centers feel the same way. This doesn't get discussed. But we're done, And I was just like, I mean, I had no idea what was, I'm thinking, should I quit my job? I'm like, I just didn't know, what was going to happen, And that's it, I never experienced a lot of stuff. I've gotten a lot of bar fights and stuff like that. But I think I told you the incident where, so I was here's another deal. I was at a club party. It wasn't our event. It was some other club's event. But there was probably 4 or 5 different clubs there. Krieg, Wheelman, Sojourners, Death Marauders. I don't know who else. With this place, I remember going in there and it was literally like wall-to-wall people. And at some point in the night, and I didn't even hear it, but some dude got shot. Somebody like pulled out a heater and bam, bam. And it was so crowded and everybody just, we just hightailed it,
Yeah.
The guys who were there just, took off. So then the cops in the area, these were all little kind of like, resort beach towns, kind of like places that people would go in the summer that had turned into year-round homes. And so there are all these little beach communities, there's a lot of lakes up there. So the cops were rousting everybody. If you had a patch on your back, they were pulling you over. And so one Saturday we're riding, cop car pulls us over. Another one comes up behind, and I'm thinking maybe there's 10 of us. We pull off the shoulder of the road. I didn't have anything, so I really wasn't worried, I had a knife and that. But so our president goes up, talks to the cop, and he said, comes back, and they kind of looked at our bikes, but not really, they didn't check numbers or anything. They just kind of walked back and looked at everybody. And he said something like, hey, you know anything about that shooting over at da-da-da-da-da? And we're like, no, I don't know. Just about that time, the president talks to the cop, and they get everything, I guess, straightened out, and so he turns around and he says, yeah, we're going to be on our way in a minute. So when he turns around, this gun falls out of his cut onto the ground, and the cop looks at him, and, we kind of froze it. They didn't get crazy about it though. They didn't, get on the ground or anything like that. It was almost like the cop was like, what the fuck, or something like that, and they arrested him. They took the gun, they handcuffed him, took him, and he says, yeah, I'll give you a call a little bit later. About 2-3 hours later, we just went down to this bar down the street. About 2-3 hours later, he called, guy rode over there, picked him up, and they were asking him about this murder. They wanted to know about the murder. I guess he had a CCW or something. So the gun thing turned out to be not an issue, but they wanted information on this murder.
Oh, but he had nothing to do with the shooting, right?
No, he had nothing to do with it. In fact, I don't think anybody except the guys that did it knew, because it was so crowded in this place. I mean, literally, I remember kind of like just wanting to get out of there because you couldn't move. But yeah, we were all like, wow, who do you think did that? And, it's crazy. I mean, I found out years later who did, but yeah, I don't know. Those are kind of like some of the highlights of club life. And I'm telling you, Bill, I wanted to do that since, I don't know, maybe I was at 12 years old or something. I'm going to show you a picture. Ever seen that before?
Oh, sweet.
So that's a picture of some HAs from, I think, San Francisco. I think it was in the Post in like 67, 68. So I remember going through my mom and dad's, the Post, and I saw that picture, and man, I thought, these are the coolest guys I have ever seen in my life. This is what I'm doing. This is my vocation. That and this movie,
Easy Rider, yo.
My brother took me to see that 10 times. I was about 69. I would have been like 13, 14. Between that picture and seeing Easy Rider, all through high school, that's all I thought about was I'm getting a bike, going to California. I'm going to join Hell's Angels. That's going to be my life path.
Yeah, but so with you being around that territory where the Outlaws are the dominant club,
I couldn't have done it there.
No.
I wouldn't have been able to do it there. I knew I was going to have to go to California,
But other people have, like Mel
Yeah,
Chancey. He was a part of the Hell's Henchmen, and he was there when the Hell's Henchmen dissolved and patched over to the Hell's
right.
Angels.
See, that was a little bit later from me. I got,
Mhm.
I was done and out in, 88. And so that happened in like 94, I think, when they did the patch over thing. So I didn't know Mel. I didn't even, they came to our clubhouse, a couple times, and a guy that had been a member had been a henchman at one time. He was in our club, and I don't really remember. And this dude was kind of evasive anyway. I mean, he'd show up and he'd be gone, and then show up. So I never really knew if that was like, geez, I wonder if they'd be pissed about that or something, or what the story was. Yeah, that sort of became my life path. The other thing that happened to me as a kid is when I was about 11 years old, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. Okay. Um, I didn't really know I had epilepsy because nobody ever really came out and said, hey, you got epilepsy. It was like, you got a condition. My mom and dad took me up to the Mayo Clinic, had me tested. And so I was put on this medication, which was it was a barbiturate, but I was over medicated for about 2 years. I mean, all I would do was sleep, from the time I was I think I started on this maybe 11. So between 11 and 13, I'm just like sleeping.
Zombied out. Yeah.
Zombied out. And then my mom is like, what's wrong with this kid? And so then they lowered the medication and that. But that event, Bill, when, I was going through the testing and that, and, my friends started to look at me a little differently. You know what I mean? Like they were almost like they were a little cautious around me. And, we pick up that stuff, as human beings, we just, somebody's kind of like, be careful around Wayne, because, you might have a seizure. So that, and in the 60s, it was a different time, and you got, kidded about stuff like that. And I was so angry, man. I was so freaking angry at God, basically. But I was pissed off at everybody, I'm thinking, right, I got this, all my friends are drinking, doing this, doing that. And they're telling me, you can't drink. You cannot drink on this medication. And I'm like, yeah, right,
You did anyway, right?
Oh, yeah, I did. And a number of other things, I mean, name any kind of street drug, I did it. And, I think I was I went into my first rehab when I was 16 years old. I'm 68 now.
16? Back then, that was unheard of, though, back then.
Back then it was, and yeah, my mom put me in there and I didn't know, I was tricked into going in. And here's the other thing. When I found out that they had tricked me, that I was actually not leaving on, like, she dropped me off on Friday and said, yeah, I'll pick you up on Sunday or whatever. And then when I get in there, they tell me, no, you're staying here indefinitely because you're a drug addict. And so you're going to be here for a while. Well, I had a hit of window pane acid in my shirt, it was just like a little cellophane thing, So yeah. I'm thinking, yeah, okay. And I took it, right? And the next thing I know, they check me in, they say, okay, well, we're going to, for your own safety, we're going to strap you down, and now I'm starting to get off, on this acid. And I told them, I think I got scared or something. I said, yeah, well, I took some acid earlier. And so they sent this kid in that was about my age to kind of just hang out with me to make sure I didn't, do something stupid. And I was in there for like 3 months or something.
Wait,
And
they strapped you down too?
yeah, strap my
Oh man,
ankles, strap my hands, uh,
that's got
yeah.
to be the worst when you're tripping, man.
Oh my God, it was thankfully, I wasn't one of these people that would like freak out and stuff like that. I kind of went with it. So you got an angry young 16-year-old, man. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do anything. I want to get high, and I'm gonna do this motorcycle thing. I'm getting a chopper, and that's what we're gonna do. And I think my dad was, he's like, I think he's pretty serious about this. My dad was always very cool to me. My mom hated the fact that I had this long hair, and she thought everyone with long hair was a drug dealer. I said, no, Mom, it's the guy over there in that BMW with the gold shit.
Yeah.
She's like, but she came from that, era. My dad was more like, let him grow his hair down to his feet as long as he's a decent person. That's all I care, But I was freaking angry, and I got out, and I went through all the, they tried sending me off to a school. I lasted 3 weeks there. I ran away, ran to my buddy's house. That was prior to me going in. Yeah, sorry. That was prior to me going into treatment. Treatment was kind of the last stance. I had run away from this private school, hid out at my buddy's house, went to another school, and they had suspended me. I was suspended for a week. I got caught smoking weed behind a building. And that was, so after that, I get my mom and dad said he's going into treatment. This kid's out of control, When I came back, well, nothing changed. In fact, I can remember being in treatment and the psychiatrist talking to my mom on the phone. And I can remember to this day him telling her, he said, ma'am, there's nothing wrong with your son other than he's an alcoholic and a drug addict. And until he wants to quit or change, there's nothing anybody can do about it, You're
young as hell.
And I'm like, yes, this is what I want to hear.
When I was young like that, people would say that, I'd be like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't know. What are you talking about,
Yeah.
Just craziness. It came out, I was more wild than ever. I don't even know how getting through, how I got through high school. If my mom hadn't done those correspondence courses for me, I probably wouldn't have graduated, because I didn't care. What's graduation got to do with me becoming a biker?
When did you get your first bike, and how did you get your first bike?
So, well, I had, growing up, I had mini bikes, dirt bikes, that kind of thing. Let me see.
We couldn't afford that stuff when I was younger.
These were home built jobs.
Pats them together.
But yeah, that was me in the middle. I think I'm probably about 10, 12 there. But yes, mini bikes. And then, so when I was in high school, I was working for this guy, repairing dry cleaning equipment. And he sent me over to the junkyard to get I think I just graduated high school. That's what it was. So I'm working for this guy, sends me over to this junkyard to get a transmission or something. And I walk in, and here's this, was a 45 flathead with a 14 over Springer front end with a jockey shift.
Yeah.
And it had the tranny with the reverse. Guys tell me, he goes, yeah, still got the reverse gear in it, so you can pop it into reverse. But, it was a two-wheeler, it was a regular bike frame. But I remember I had a Sportster tank, Sportster and all, but it was basically a rolling chassis. The motor, both wheels, enough where I could sit on it down in the basement
Pretend like you
dream,
have,
you know?
yeah, pretend you have a full bike.
Right. So my friends would come over, and I had plans on building this bike. My mom picked it, and I didn't get my license till I was 17 because I got caught with weed a couple of times, and for some reason or other, they made me wait a year, maybe because I was driving or something. But you know, my mom used to let me drive the car when I was like, I don't know, 13, 14, because she grew up in the South. She grew up in Meridian, Mississippi, and you didn't have to have a driver's license. So she'd give me her Cadillac, send me down the road to get cigarettes for her, you know?
Yeah.
And I'd get pulled over, and the cops say, how come you're driving? You know, and I'd say, well, my mom told me to, and they were local cops, so they'd send me home. But anyway, I didn't get my license till I was like 17, and I get this flathead 45, and you know, it's down there in the basement, and my mom is driving me to motorcycle shops to get parts, you know. And you know, back then it was just kind of catalog stuff, but I walk in, you know, and I'm this 17-year-old, you know, 160-pound kid, and I can remember walking into this place, and I think they were Ghost Riders, but the whole place smelled like weed. You know, I walked in there. My mom's sitting out in the car. I go in there. Boy, I needed a cable. I was looking for a clutch cable. And I said, you got one of these? And he's like, I don't know. He kind of barked something at me. And yeah, okay. He got me a cable, and I bought that. And that was kind of the end of it. Long story short, with that bike, I ended up trading it for a bag of.
What?
Yeah. Traded it for a bag of. I was so hard up, and
Did
never
you ever
got
ride
any,
it? Did you ever get it together where
no,
you
I
could
never
ride
got
it?
it running or anything like that. It remained a rolling chassis. I was just too screwed up to, you know, try to do anything. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, to try to work on, and I didn't have money. You know, and I was always, you know, dealing with, you know, something with my license or something like that. But it's my first, you know, we'll call it my first real bike. I got in 1977. I was working on a job, and one of the maintenance guys there get a picture of this chopper on his toolbox. I was like, man, that's a nice bike. He's like, yeah, I'm selling it. I said, really? And he goes, yeah. He said, I put a brand new motor in it. And he said, but the wrist pin slipped, scored the wall. He said, but it's under warranty. So I just took it back to Harley. They're going to give me a brand new motor, and I'm going to put it in like this coming weekend. So I said, well, can I come over and look at it? He was like, yeah. So I think I went over after work that day and looked at it. I was like, you know, I was in love. It was this big, beautiful wide glide front end. It was a 56 straight leg frame, so it was a hardtail. And you know, when I went over there, he didn't have the engine in it because he had to return to Harley. But that weekend, I went back and we put the motor in. He had the brand new shovel head motor. And I remember because he said it was like $18.99 or something. And I bought the whole bike for $2,500, which was a lot of money in 1977. You know, that was kind of a lot of money for, you know, like a chopper. But he had a brand new motor. But, you know, it was a piece together bike. It had a 48 Hydroglide transmission, 48 Hydroglide wide glide front end, 56 frame. But, you know, I loved it. That was my first. I kept that bike for 12 years. In fact, I sold it to a club brother, and he rode it for, he had it for 7, 8 years, and then he sold it. But that bike, yeah, that's the bike that I met all these guys on. I rode in the club with. Yeah.
So your time before all this time, do you have any interactions with the Outlaws? And what were your thoughts on the Outlaws?
My first interaction, well, let me go back. My first interaction with the Outlaws, I was probably, I think 19. And I went, my buddy and I stole his sister's car. and drove to this rock festival in Sedalia, Missouri. Okay. Crazy thing. We got no car accident on the way there, got lost in East St. Louis and some in the ghetto, make it to the concert. But at the concert, the Outlaws, they had this like campsite thing set up, and then they had a rope all the way around like their area, and then they'd have like cardboard signs hanging on there that said "No Man's Land" there. So it was like you'd walk by and you'd see all these outlaws in there,
Yeah.
They were intimidating, but I like bikers. That's what I wanted to do. So I tell my buddy, I go, come on, let's go over here. And he's like, really? And I go, yeah, So, because I saw people jump, going over the little no man's land thing. And
so you're gonna go to no man's land?
Yeah, I go to no man's land. We jump over the fence. Now, I think at this time, I lost everything I had at that concert. Like I lost my shirt. All I had was my pants, lost my shoes. It was summertime. So we go in there, and some guys some friends of ours from where we lived, they were at the concert too. We hooked up with them. But this guy had, I don't know, he had like 25 hits of acid or something in this bowl, in this little thing. He says to one of the outlaws, he's like, hey, you want to buy some acid? And I'm thinking, even back then, I rolled my eyes. I'm thinking, no, what are you doing, And the guy says, yeah, let me see it. And so he hands it to him, and he takes out five hits, freaking takes them himself, hands the bottle to his friends, and passes them around and goes, thanks. That was it.
You didn't give him no money, no nothing.
Nothing.
Right?
Nothing. And by that time, I go, hey, Scott, let's go, We just walked off, So that was my first ever interaction with the Outlaws. Then I knew that the guys, like these older guys in the club, had relationships, knew the Outlaws and knew certain members in that. But we used to have a guy that used to kind of stop regularly, because I think where we were was in northern Illinois, and we called this guy State Line, because I think he lived up around Janesville, like around the border or whatever. But he seemed like I would run into him quite a bit. Like he would come to our events, not with other outlaws, but by himself. And he was a cool guy, But I was standoffish of him, because he wasn't like warm and fuzzy. But then I got to know him a little bit, and
yeah,
he was okay. But I can remember going to the clubhouse in Chicago. I think it was the North Side Clubhouse. Man, I just would never really get comfortable there, because, guys would be like fishing for, mud checking, doing a lot of mud checking, just, you don't know these guys, and, it's their event, it's their party. And, I would just, I'd socialize and stuff, but just kind of kept my distance, I guess, for lack of better, because I didn't know him that well, I knew a couple, like I knew another guy who'd been in a club, and he made the jump to the Outlaws. Okay. So, and I knew him for a long time. But it wasn't like we interacted a lot, and we dated the same girl at one time, and he warned me about her too. And, but I didn't listen.
You didn't listen,
I didn't listen.
You didn't listen. When you first get involved with this club, you're prospecting, right?
Right.
How long did that period last for? What was prospecting?
For me, not very long. 3 months, maybe.
Did they put you to a lot of tests?
Yeah, mud check type stuff. Like I say, I learned early on. I opened up my mouth at a party or something to somebody, and it came back to our president, And, he read me the riot act, and said something like, just assume you're being tested all the time and you won't get into trouble or something like that, along those lines. No, I had to do, I had to go through the traditional, I think I dodged the ceremony, the traditional ceremony for a while. I got my patch, but it didn't get brought up about, he's got to be indoctrinated, which included drinking anything and everything somebody poured into your engineer boot. You'd have to drink out of that, okay? While guys are pouring STP on your hair.
Oil. They're dumping oil on you.
Oil. Right? And STP, if you ever try to get that out, brother, I'm telling you. So I got the STP treatment, and this is going all over my cut.
Yeah, so you got your cut, right? And it's getting poured all over you.
Yeah.
So that's the cut you used to wear was denim?
Yeah, denim back then. This was so this patch here, the lightning bolts, it's worn out now, but it used to say 1-7, and that was for the first 7 members of the club. Okay, and then my name Drano was on here. This thing can almost stand up by itself.
Where'd you get the name Drano from?
So, okay. The guy that I bought that first bike from, with the wide glide front end, the straight leg frame, him and I became friends. And he was in a club, I can't remember, Odin or something like that. So Odin MC. But anyway, we became friends. He lived down the street from the bar that I drank at, this kind of biker bar. And so we became friends. I bought his bike. We kind of hung out, sort of the same people. But I was in there and, raging alcoholic. I'm in there one day and the bartender says, I know what will fix you. And he says, have you ever had Malort? And I said, nope. And so he poured me a shot of Malort. Have you ever had it?
No.
Yeah. It's I can't even describe how horrible it is. It's bad, man. It's like I can't even describe what it tastes like. But he saw me drink that, and I think he had a little taste of it or something. He spit it out. He said, man, you drank all of that? And I said, yeah. He was start calling you Drano. You can drink anything, and the name stuck, and I'm like, man, this freaking Drano, Then my brother found out about it. He still calls me Drano to this day.
Did a lot of the people in the club have crazy weird names like that?
So we had me. Was a guy named Spider, a guy named Little Bit, Big John, Hans.
Why'd they call him Little Bit? Did he say, let me get a little bit or something?
Yeah, he was kind of, he had this sort of Southern accent, and he always wore one of those, the kind of traditional Harley leather hat, Thing was like formed to his head, man. He'd had it so long. But he'd get real mad and he'd start talking real fast. Hey, God damn it, Drano. God damn it, Drano. What are you doing? And so I don't know how he got his name, but that's what they called him. He wasn't little. But yeah, everybody had, what they say, Moondog. There was a guy, we called him Gacy because he was just kind of a creepy dude. We call him Gacy. Yeah, everybody had like a road name. That's just how it was. was way before cell phones and all that stuff, But
Was there any accidents when you were involved with this club?
oh yeah, so yeah, first year I had that bike. I slid it across the intersection. We were coming down the road at night, about 4 or 5 of us, and the road stopped and teed, and I didn't see it or didn't stop in time, so I slid across the intersection into a telephone pole. It had like a perfect imprint on my gas tank of this telephone pole. I didn't really get hurt. I kind of got thrown off. It was sort of a
Better than an
area
imprint
there.
of the telephone pole in your head, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. The worst accident I got to, and it was when I was in the club. We were down near somewhere around, it was in Missouri somewhere, because we had to go through the city and the Golden Arches and that. So we're on this weekend run, and so Saturday, and I haven't slept, I've been up since like Thursday, So at like Saturday at like, I don't know, 3 o'clock, I decide, man, I'm leaving. I'm cutting out. I'm leaving. They're like, where are you going? I go, I'm gonna go back home, And they're like, seriously? And I'm like, yeah, I got stuff to do or something. I don't know. So I get on my bike, I start heading back, and I'm thinking, well, it was about a 5-6 hour ride. So I'm calculating, okay, 9:30, 10, I'll make it back to the bar. So I'm riding along, and I'm kind of on the outskirts, almost on the other side of St. Louis there towards Illinois. And I get off this off ramp to get gas. And so as I get off, I'm looking back like this, and I see a dude and a lady in a sidecar merging up. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll make sure I'm over in the right lane. And when I look forward, my front end goes down into this, it's like a chunk of asphalt, like the size of a manhole cover, right in the middle of the road. So my front wheel goes down into that. I go flying over the handlebars. I literally see my bike cartwheeling like this. So it's like, Bill, this is incredible. But I'm thinking, okay, tuck and roll, I get into this tuck, but I can see my motorcycle doing cartwheeling end over end like this. I finally stop. I wake up. This lady that had been in the sidecar, she's kind of holding my head. She's like, take it easy, take it easy. And I wake up, and I've been speeding for the last couple of days. I get up and I'm like, where's my motorcycle? And I'm
Did you have a helmet on?
No helmet. No helmet at all. I'm MFing this, I'm mad. And she's like, calm down, calm down. And I'm like, where's my bike? And I get up, and they had already bandaged my hands. I had just like little fingertips, because when I tried to stop myself by putting my hands on it, I just tore my palms off. So my bike's laying over in the ditch. I had a little solo seat on there. The battery had flown out of the oil tank. I get the battery, I put it back in, get my tools out, and I'm like, if this doesn't start, the cop's like, you should really go and have that checked, go to the hospital. I said, nah, I got to be to work on Monday. If this thing starts, I'm out of here. Guy helped me push it up on the side of the road. The only thing that was wrong with the bike, Bill, not a scratch on the paint or anything. It was a little scratch on the handlebars, I think. They might have got tweaked a little bit. The headlight, the little chrome trimming around the headlight, it was like sanded down where it had like slid along the roadway or something. I'm looking at the bike, I'm going, this is unbelievable. Like I literally saw the thing cartwheel. So we get it up, a couple of kicks, it fires up, see ya. Down the road, got gas, rode home, made it to the bar at like, I don't know, 10 o'clock. And I walk in and they said, hey, you won the lottery or whatever, the football lottery or whatever it was. And He said, "You want $175?" And I'm like, "Drinks for everybody." You know?
Yeah. You're like, today's my lucky day.
Today's my lucky day. I told him what happened. And yeah, I mean, I used to think about that, man, and I'd almost get sick to my stomach, after I sobered up and got, I'm talking many years later after the event. At the time, I thought, yeah, whatever. I mean, I didn't think of it like
Another day,
I'm
right?
lucky. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
in fact, I remember used to tell guys, I said, you don't really ride that much if you don't go down at least once a year. That was my thought process.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I tell
So
you.
there's probably a lot of people watching right now that maybe are in a club and thinking about getting out, or they're thinking about joining a club. What would be your advice to that person?
My advice would be hang around a lot, just really get to know these people, for me, I was very young when I came in. So, my thought process changed over the years. When I moved out here, I was thinking, I'm in my 40s, maybe I'll go hang out at the local 81 and see what happens. And then, you start really thinking it through. Like, okay, I'm 44 years old. I'm not going to make it in the club till I'm in my 50s, I would just say really, really get to know these people. And I can tell you one thing, the guys that were in that club, when I had my 5 years in the club, but I also, my 5-year sobriety was about the same time, was a few months before, but they came over in the summer. So it was a little bit before my 5-year anniversary in the club. Had no idea. I was sitting there, and I kept telling my ex-wife, I said, like, I think I'm going to go for a ride or something. Like, no, just, hang out here or whatever. And all of a sudden, I hear these Harleys. I hear this thunder, I look, here they come down the street. And it's, probably 15 members of our club came to, like, congratulate me on my sobriety, and, they were really supportive, one guy told me, early on when I first got sober in 83, he's like, take some time off, there's not much going on. And he says, take a little time off. And then, if you want to come back or whatever, everything's cool.
See, that's the difference. I heard a story today about about a 1% club guy that was in the club. He decided to get sober, and they booted him out of the club when he decided to get sober.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty crazy, because it's funny, the longer I was sober, in fact, the president at the time was a really good friend of mine. He's since passed. He came over, and I mean, the whole time we were there, I mean, after we got to thank, congratulations on being sober, and that, he's like, yeah, we really need you back, we'd like to have you come back. And I was like, man, Tom, because I felt like, if you're going to be in that lifestyle, you need to participate. You need to go to the events. You need to go out to the bars and stuff with the guys, if that's what they're doing. And I was kind of feeling like, you know what? I'm not being active.
Yeah, but everyone doesn't drink, right? Or do they all drink?
Well, back then, yeah, it seemed like everybody drank that I knew, you know. But, when I got sober, I told him, hey, man, I got to go to these meetings, I'm court mandated. I got to go to this counselor. They were really supportive about it. They're like, yeah, but at the same time, people don't understand. Like, they think, okay, he's going to just quit drinking and he's going to come hang out, well,
yeah.
Who wants to do that,
Yeah, it's not that easy.
Yeah, everybody's getting loaded and stuff. You want to do the same thing. And
you don't want to be around that.
My sobriety was more important. So But
Especially
yeah,
when you
do a
get
lot
sober,
of
you don't want to hang out with people that are drinking when you're sober. It's not
no,
appealing anymore.
no.
That's not
It's
appealing.
people, they repeat themselves all the time, and I'll tell you what, I was probably 3 months sober. I was on my bike. My ex-wife was out of town. I went to a meeting, and I thought, I'm gonna stop at this bar that I used to hang out at all the time. I'm gonna stop, see the people. I can do it. Well, I walked in there, and I saw this chick at the bar who I knew was a friend of mine's girlfriend, and she went to like give me a kiss, and the alcohol like came out of her breath, came out, and I was like, I looked around, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here, and I turned around and I left, and she's like, where are you going? I'm like, yeah, I don't belong in here, you
Yeah,
know. And there were a
yeah,
lot of years that I had to, I couldn't go into a place. Now, if I want to see a band or something like that, I don't even think about it. But
yeah.
back then it was, and it seemed like, to me, it seemed like everybody drank. I mean, that's what we did on the weekends. We'd ride around, if you were going, I mean, somebody was having a party somewhere, some clubhouse, you'd go there, and what do you do at parties? You drink, and so, and then you got to think about riding home intoxicated and stuff, which I never did, but rode intoxicated lots of times.
I'm
And
sure.
I'm, by the grace of God, I'm still here. So,
Must have been your lucky day.
yeah,
Again,
club
right?
club life is fun, but you really have to get to know your own lifestyle and know your limitations, and are you willing to, especially at 1%er club, which again, I don't, like back then, I don't even remember really talking about, like they're a diamond club or that, they're the outlaws, or us, but you
Yeah,
end
like
up
the hell,
going,
like we were talking, the Hell's Henchmen weren't a diamond club,
no.
and
But they had a reputation, in the area. They had a reputation for, taking care of business, So they weren't punks by any stretch of the imagination. They were tough guys.
yeah,
But that's, I mean, you hear it over and over. What's the outcome of this? It's going to possibly be prison, or, you're going to get killed on your motorcycle, like, I don't know. I ride more. I mean, I ride a lot these days. My buddy and I, every Saturday, and I ride almost every day of the week, but every Saturday we do usually 200 to 300 miles on a Saturday morning,
even in the cold.
even in the cold. Yeah, we get this last weekend, of course, cold to us, but in the wintertime here it'd be like 50s, 60s. 60 here is pretty cold when you've lived, when it's 115 in the summer, and it's
Where you
very,
at? Phoenix, right? You're in Phoenix.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, big
So,
difference though between there and Illinois.
oh my God. And
Mm.
that was the reason I moved out there. I wanted to ride my motorcycle year round. And then, um, I thought, well, who knows what can happen. I was just tired of the weather where I lived. I wanted to live in a state. I got divorced, so I wanted to go live somewhere where I could ride year round. And my brother lives here, so close to him. And I got a brother up north, was in Northern California. So, um, life is good today. You know, Having that drink, I think I told you. Knock on wood. I'm in my 42nd year. If I make it to July 31st, it'll be 42 years.
Congratulations, man. That's a
Thank
huge accomplishment. Huge.
Yeah, it's crazy because I hate to say I take it for granted, but I probably do take it for granted, and I shouldn't. But that is, alcohol is something I just for me, it doesn't mix. You know, my friend used to have a saying. He goes, yeah, every time I drink, I break out in handcuffs.
Handcuffs, yeah. Every time I drink, I break out in handcuffs.
Right?
Me too, man.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that's not a part of my life anymore.
Oh,
I got a whole different life. I'm focused on what I'm doing now. I got goals and aspirations, and I'm making it happen, you know?
Yeah. You're killing it. I can't believe like who you're getting on your show and just how many, you know, constantly putting out content. I love it.
Every day. Try to get them out every day. I do lives every day. I drop videos every day. So just trying to bring it to another level, man.
Right. You got to take care of yourself too at the same time. So
yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm planning on getting into the nice weather next year, and I'm gonna start riding all summer. It's gonna be great. So
yeah, we ride in the summer there too. We'll go, but we leave early. We'll leave at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're back by like noon. But by the time we come back, I mean, out here, guys wear hydration vests. You put them in water, put it on, and then it's kind of like air conditioning as you ride through the heat. But yeah, I mean, I did like 3,000 miles just doing these little Saturday trips and like a couple of months over the summer. Me and my buddy, you know, and we had a great time. You know, you're up at, you know, 6 o'clock, you're on the road, man. Nobody's out there. It's just cool.
I can't wait. I can't wait to start riding, man.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I'll bring you on for a live where we'll do this again.
All right.
I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you having me on, Bill. It was a pleasure.
Is there anyone else you want to give a shout out to before we go?
I'll give a shout out to Podowski. I give a shout out to Big Steve, and any Death Marauders that are still out there and doing it. Shout out to you, brothers.
I look forward to seeing what you got going on in the future.
All right, Bill. Have a good night.
If you like the show, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like the show, too bad. Start your own podcast. Peace.